think there's a lot to say about that. I mean, you know, they thought Jules Verne stuff was crazy, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Hell, that's passé stuff now. So, yeah. They thought Superman was crazy, but they got all kinds of people with flying suits. I watch people with flying suits every day on YouTube.
Every day?
You know, occasionally. But I mean, I see them. I see guys doing stuff.
Every day I go home. While I'm eating dinner, I turn on the Flying Suits YouTube channel.
Well, you know, it's not uncommon anymore.
You know, if you leave, you take the social media account with you, but it took the advertising off of the salon owner, and now every employee advertises for themselves and brings in their own work. And
well, I'm advertising for you.
yeah, so that's what I try to do with Gold Show. So while I'm here, you get the money. When I'm gone,
You'll keep the money.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Someday.
That's what it should be.
Yeah. I think this is episode 20.
Is it really?
I could be wrong.
Well, yesterday we got those T-shirts back.
The best Boxworks T-shirt.
Right. We had a Boxworks rally that we did for 12 years, from like 01 or 02, and we had a fellow come by yesterday who doesn't fit into his T-shirts anymore, so he brought them back to us. Actually, it doesn't look like he even unfolded them. Looks like they anyway. So in one year we thought it was the 10th rally, and so we made these T-shirts. You know, the 10th. 10th Boxworks rally, blah, blah, blah. And then all these people showed up and they said, hey, we got these shirts on. Last year was the 8th. This is the 9th. So when we did the next year, we did the 10th. It was the 2nd annual, and it says on the shirt, 2nd annual, 10th annual Boxworks rally. So it's pretty fun. Yeah. So we're going to frame the back of that shirt and put it up somewhere here in the shop. It's been the butt of a lot of jokes.
In the thriving metropolis.
In the thriving megalopolis of Watkinsville, Georgia. It says that in the back too.
Yeah,
that was a good shirt. Yeah. So then we had another one where we took the BMW toolkit. We took all the tools out and we laid them out so it looked like your spine, and that goes down. I think that's the one you took. Was that the one Gary took?
I took that one.
So when you wear it, it's all the BMW tools, and it looks like your spinal column.
Yeah.
Your disc. It's
pretty clever.
It was a good idea. Yeah. Way back when we were young and dumb, we came up with some good designs.
Yeah, well, that's why.
Now we're old. And,
that's why you got me now, and I just say, put Nathan's face on it, and it will sell. Yeah, that's the general rule.
So you're coming out with another Gold Stroke shirt?
I am. Yeah.
And what's it gonna look like?
It's got a. I found like an old. There's an old German scientific wood carving of a. I should start this story by saying I'm working on an R90S right now that's pretty dirty, hasn't been on the road in 12 years, and it had probably the biggest rat's nest I've ever seen inside an airbox.
Well, the one sitting next to it had a nice squirrel nest, that R65.
Yeah,
it's that squirrel nest.
Real common for
Right.
They love being in that airbox, but it had a perfectly intact rat skull inside the airbox that I found. So I found like an old German wood carving image and repurposed it and put it on a T-shirt.
So, we're working on this bike that was underwater. This bike behind me was under 4 foot of water. It's a 78 R80. And it survived real well, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be inexpensive to fix. After we've had the gearboxes all done, the whole motor's come apart, the crankshaft's been out, the rear drive's coming apart, the front end's coming apart, everything in the bike. It was under 4 foot of water for an hour. So everything in the bike has to come apart and go back together. And obviously we're going to have a lot more money in it than it's worth when we're done. I had that discussion with the guy who we're doing it for. He seemed to be okay with that. It is kind of interesting to see what one of these things looks like after it's been underwater. When I lived in Charleston, we saw that a lot when Hugo hit, but that was brackish water. It had a lot of salt in it, and it was terrible. This was from a creek in Atlanta, so it was fresh water. So it didn't seem to leave behind the mess that the brackish water did and the stuff I saw in the Charleston area.
How do those iron bore cylinders look?
Well, interesting enough, they didn't look that bad. Now they're bad enough that we'll have to bore them. We've got to take them next week and let them bore them until they're smooth, and then see what's left, and if we can get a piston that fits it. Then if not, we'll just have to go to something else. But we don't know the answer to that until we see how much they can take out when they set it up. Just got a couple of good pits in it where the rings were attached to the cylinders right at that junction. Water set on top of the rings. We had a hard time getting the stuff apart, but I've got some tools I made.
Yeah, that makes sense that it would.
Break it. Yeah. So
that's the place where it would.
So, but you know, the crank looked good. We cleaned it up, and the cam looked good, and the followers looked good, and timing chain wasn't all that bad. But we've had the whole thing apart. Everything's been cleaned. We had to. And
yeah, because you don't know until you get in there.
No, right. So it's all done.
Yeah.
So going back together. It's just kind of an interesting. I mean, swing arm bearings have to come out. Everything, the whole bike, everything in the bike has to be renewed. So. Kind of your not standard project.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And
what year is it?
78. They only made it with the flat top carburetors for 1 year.
Okay.
And
the flat top carburetors are a pain.
Well, the guy said, I said to him, I said they only use these carbs basically for 1 year, and I said, and I can put the regular top carburetors, regular tops on them, and if I do that, then I can put the regular slides in them with the regular diaphragms.
That's the problem.
Right, because the diaphragms on these things are attached to the slides, and though in the past we've taken standard diaphragms, pried off the keeper that was glued or whatever, pressed on there, and put it back on, and most of the time they work, but occasionally they come apart and then the cylinder doesn't work anymore. And they're $150 each.
Yeah.
So I said, I want to keep it stock. Okay, but I mean, we're only talking the difference of a carburetor that's got a flat top and a carburetor that's got a little round top, but we're talking about a lot less maintenance costs in the future when the diaphragm gets loose and it needs to be replaced. You got to replace the whole slides, like on some of the early Hondas. So it's $300 just for 2 slides with diaphragms attached to them. That's part of the reason that they.
I did that on Mark's R80/7.
Yeah, he had the same carburetors.
I mean, in the long run, it saves you.
Yeah,
it's a high wear item.
I'm not sure why they did it. Maybe it was just an experiment. Maybe because they saw the Japanese were doing it, they tried to do it. I don't know.
I actually asked questions this week.
Oh,
we got 2.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Is that one on there?
No.
Good. I had an answer to that one already too. Who'd we get a question from? Do we know, or is this just a question?
All right, Limelight Sign Co. I forget his name. You know him. He's from Charleston. I recognize his Instagram.
Okay.
He's the sign guy from Charleston.
My friends who are teachers, for instance, when Dean was here and he was teaching MSF course, and he said, and he did it for years, and he said he'd go somewhere, and somebody would go, "Hey, Dean, it's me. Remember I took that course in Alpharetta with you?" And Dean would say, "The only people I remember are the people who did really stupid shit. Other than that, I don't remember any of that stuff." So,
why is it so much easier to? Why is taking things apart so much easier than putting them back together?
I mean, that should be common sense, no? I mean, anybody can take nuts and bolts out, you throw them in a box, and, if you don't know, you don't need to know anything. But when you put it back together, you got to know what bolt goes where and what piece goes, and what it was lined up with, and you have to put it together right, and then you have to adjust everything. If you're taking the valve train apart,
yeah,
to torque it, then you have to adjust them. So unless you take copious pictures of notes, even then it always takes way more time to put something back together than it does.
Even then, just like the forks I did today, pulling the damper rod out, you just tug it out, but then in order to get all
the rings on?
The rings in, you have to use your special little tool.
Well, to put the whole thing back in, yeah. Or you can use 2 feeler gauges.
Yeah. Or you can probably use a thin piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like you have to do with the
Something like that. That just happens to be a factory tool and it works real well.
Yeah.
So it's screwed in and it's done.
Speaking of harder to put things back together, so I did the box bike that I inherited.
The R90, so the R100, whatever it was.
Taken apart.
Yeah.
And boxes went home. The owner loves it.
Yeah, he likes it a lot.
Been driving around, getting a ton of compliments.
Good.
He said it's more than he even wanted, which is great. So, yeah,
Good.
Real happy.
Happy customer.
But I put that thing completely together. I test rode it the first time. It was perfect. All I had to do was change a light bulb.
And that took you, what, 3 days?
On my test rides. And nobody said anything. I feel like that's a you know, even for you, putting a bike from scratch together and having nothing go wrong would be, you gotta have a lot of luck.
We just expect it from you now, Mikey. We expect it to be perfect.
Thank you.
I mean, you know.
All I'm saying is, you know, you could know how to do everything on an airhead and you still need an ounce of luck.
Correct, but you
Yeah.
know, the proof here is how does it do over the next 500, 1,500 miles? That's where, you know, things have come to be. But, you know, you can put as many miles on as you can, and that's the best you can do. You never can put thousands and thousands on it, and,
Yeah.
you know, we see that all the time.
You can do like perfect, but you can't make it not vintage, you know.
Well, now you're working on one that had 2 broken lifters and a bad camshaft.
Yeah, it's kind of going to be an accidental restoration.
Right, well.
But he's been on vacation for a week, but other than that, I've called him, you've called him, we've let him know what's going on.
Yeah, he knew it would be out for a little while.
He seems to be, he's had the bike for a long time, so he's attached to it, so, you know, going deep on stuff is, you know.
Well, we're just doing what he asked us to do, and when we took it apart, we found a big mess. And so what was nice about this, for instance, replacing the cam, you just did that on the last bike, so you knew exactly what you needed to do. So it made it that much easier. You did the last one because, you know, whole bike came in a box, crankshaft wasn't in it and all that, and so now you've done a second one, so now it's a little, you'll understand more of what's going on, and you'll know better how to put it together. So
yeah,
was kind of a good follow-up project because it has a lot of the same stuff. Your last
same
one
year, yeah.
Yeah, so good deal.
Yeah.
What's our next question?
The next question is, elaborate on where one can regularly check to see what bikes you guys have for sale. The answer is Instagram. It's just, we just sell bikes really fast. So there's no point in like putting in all the work to have it on the website. You know, anytime I post, I'll post something like might be for sale, and then normally it sells, and then if it doesn't and we actually do put it up for sale, I'll make a post that it's now on Facebook Marketplace.
Well, and the other thing is, I think if you're thinking about buying a bike, call us.
Yeah.
Because we have stuff that we haven't gotten to that's been sitting here for a long time that may be exactly what you're looking for. And once we know somebody wants it, we'll run it in and start going on it. And if you don't want it, that's fine. We'll have a bike already ready to go. We'll put it up for sale. So.
And for some bikes, we kind of have a waiting list. Or you have people in mind. If like an R100 GS comes in, you know, there's been 3 people who have
we sold
called
that
you.
project bike to Jim here the other day. He's going to get started on it. He's already started on it. So.
But that's the answer, just Instagram. And then there's like the 3 bikes I posted recently. They're all for sale, and if someone called up and made a really great offer, it would sell. But all 3 owners have asked us to put their bike on Bring a Trailer.
Yeah, we have 2 sidecar conversions and 1 R80 GS.
Yeah.
So.
And that's when it goes on Bring a Trailer, I post it for sale, but that's a little bit different.
Right.
Which we made a makeshift.
You'll have to cut that one out too, I guess.
No, leave that one in.
You can start with that. You can open it up with that me sneezing.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It'll be a 3-second intro. Yeah, fake makeshift little studio we made this week.
Right, that's right. We bought some parasols and some background stuff and moved a bunch of stuff out of that space next door, and Mikey became a professional photographer.
All right, well, we got 28 minutes in.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
And it's 6:01. Your girlfriend should be coming soon.
She's bringing a car for Len to take tomorrow. Because he's been driving my truck and it's...
The Accord?
Huh?
The Accord?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Len says he really likes the truck. I said, yeah, it's great as long as you got a big turnaround place and 2 parking lots to back it into.
You gotta plan the places you're going, because,
Can't make it around some of the corners around here.
by the way, I don't know if we're doing this next week or the next week, because,
You won't be here, it's Memorial Day.
yeah, I'm going to Michigan. I'm going to Mackinac City. So if
That's what they
anybody
named the
has-
coat after, I guess. It's a Mackinac, that's a coat.
it's
or a
gonna,
hat or
It's
something.
gonna be cold. I had to buy some hoodies.
It's gonna be cooler there. I don't think it's gonna be cold.
It's gonna be 60 degrees.
That's cooler.
Oh,
That's only cold if you look from Florida.
I'll be freezing.
It's only cold if you're from Florida.
I'll be freezing all year.
If you're from the UP, that's hot. If you're from Alaska, that's hot. If you're from New Jersey, that's hot. But if you're from Florida, that's cold.